Hello and welcome to Who Dares Rolls TV. I am your host, My B, and this is our top 10 games of 2019. Now, before we set off and before you lose your plot entirely and there's lots of throwing of shit at me and, oh, why did you not include this game? This will be inclusive of the stuff that I have personally played this year. There is a large amount of games that I've not seen or even sat down and played this year that I'd quite like to, but I've not had a chance to. So there is stuff that is not going to be on this list. So yes, that's my just saying, we don't get set everything. In fact, we get set barely anything. So pretty much most stuff we're going to play this year is we've gone and had to bought and play ourselves. There's a few things that made on the list that we've been sent review copies, but majority of it is we've gone and found it. So without further ado, there you go. We'll go through the list and then we can fight over it later on. So at number 10, very, very bottom of the list, number 10, we're going to go for Century and New World. Released in about May, June this year. The Century games, I've really enjoyed the Century games, all three of them. And New World was actually pretty good. They've all been pretty solid, if I'm honest with you. The original Century game was this cool little engine builder. And then we had Eastern Wonders, which I actually really enjoyed up to now of that, which was this little ships and sort of area control-y kind of thing. Again, using the same engine building mechanisms, but moving around like this hexagon map of islands. Again, very cool. Really enjoyed it. Same idea, but kind of just twisted it enough. New World is a real leap forward, actually, because it's a worker placement. Again, it's got the engine building in it, but there seems to be just a bit more complexity to it. Now, there has been some issues. I know that component quality has had some hits because the card stock is quite thin of the actual boards you put down. And the meeples are tiny little meeples. I suspected at the time, especially the meeple size, was to do with the fact that you could combine the games together into one large game. And I presume that the meeples were that size because of that. I've not yet managed to play any of the combined versions of it. It's one I want to do, and I've nearly done it about twice now, which it's just an interesting concept. It was the whole idea of Century really interested me. The idea of these three games, New World, Eastern Wonders, and Spice Road, that they all interconnect some way or another, either mix and match various versions, all three of them. So yeah, anyway, Century New World, really cool, really enjoyed it. It's a really easy game to get to the table, really quick, worker placement, does the same stuff that the other games have done, but differently. And I think it kind of moved things forward. So yes, Century New World is number 10 on my list. Right, number 9 on the list is going to be Star Wars Outer Rim. So I'm denied over this one, but I've come back to it. Outer Rim. So essentially, Star Wars Outer Rim is Firefly, the board game, but with a Star Wars polish. Kind of, essentially. If you've played Firefly, it's a pick up and deliver game, and you are running around doing stuff. So Outer Rim, same idea. You're on the outskirts, the scummy villainy sides of Star Wars, and you get to take a ship. You start off with a base model ship and a character. Most of them are big characters from the lore, Lando or Han, IG 88, Boba Fett, all kind of those dodgy characters on the periphery of Star Wars. So yeah, it's a cool concept. It's quite a good idea, is that you're going to be playing that character, and then you can either be a merchant, you're shifting dodgy goods between planets and the rim side of things, or you're a bounty hunter, or you're all moving a mishmash of this stuff. And what's cool is you're looking for fame points. You upgrade your ships during the game, so you can go for one of those iconic ships like the Millennium Falcon or Slave One. So it's using bits of lore from some of the extended universe, and some of it's from the main movies and the subsequent Disney movies. And it's good. It's actually quite good fun. It plays a bit long, especially with a full player count. It can go on a bit long, but it's an entertaining evening's play. If you're a Star Wars fan, then, great. It's hitting that Star Wars buzz for you of those characters. You're doing that thing. And it's quite cool. There's enough a bit of random on there. You've got the fleets coming after you. And it whips along pretty quickly. Once you actually know what you're doing, it just can be quite a long game. So yeah, really enjoyed it. I'm hoping that they're going to announce an expansion, because the only thing that feels a bit slight on it is all the card decks. Everything just feels a little bit light on the ground. You will cycle through some of those card decks. And I think with a expansion, not a big expansion, just something to give a bit more meat to those card decks, just a bit more variety in there. And there's definitely plans for it because it uses a similar card deck mechanism to what Fallout did, which was this numbered numeric set of cards that other cards are referenced to that pull out cards out of their deck that do stuff. So there's much meat there for an expansion to give us a bit more of everything, and that's what I would like to see. It's a bit more of everything, rather than them adding more galaxy or building a bigger, larger map. I just think more meat on that one, and it can make it really something special. It's good, but I think that expansion, that one that's waiting on the wings, surely would be the meat to the potatoes of Star Wars Outer Rim. So yeah, if you're a big Star Wars fan, then if you're looking for a pick-up deliver type game in that thing, then yes, it's a game about you telling stories, running around the galaxy in a spaceship, doing scoundrelous activities, and it's really good fun. If you've played Firefly, very similar. Of the two, don't know, Firefly is a beast when you've got all the expansions, and I think Firefly probably pips it in regards to just the sheer amount of content that Firefly has in the full set. We really enjoy Firefly. Again, a long game. But if you're looking for that Star Wars fix, then at the moment, really, Outer Rim is it. That's it. And there wasn't very many Star Wars games released this year from FFG. But yes, Outer Rim. That's our number 9 spot. Star Wars Outer Rim from Fantasy Flight Games. Number 8 is going to be Tapestry. Unbelievably, a Stonemaier game on my list. Now this is the one Stonemaier game I've been on the fence about potentially purchasing and owning. It was set and sold as a Civ game, which it's not really. It's a bit of a mishmash. You're kind of an engine builder. You've got this map, these 4 tracks of this tech tracks. There's a exploration track, there's a war track, I'm going to say that, and a science track, something like that. Anyway, you could go up these tracks with your actions every round, playing cards, and putting down worker placement almost, and there's a board layout. There's a lot of mechanisms going on. It's a very simple game to teach. It comes with these ornate sort of built 3D models that you put on your own little Sudoku map, sort of Civ map to score points, which they don't kind of fit correctly. Bit weird. I don't own it. I've played it a good few times. Ben from the podcast owned it, and we've played it. And it's one of the rare ones where I've actually played the Stonemaier game that I was really enjoyed. It's got random. It's got dice rolls in it. There is random draws of the Civ cards. Some of it doesn't feel balanced. It feels that some of it isn't as fair as everything else. But I quite like a bit of chaos in my world. And I think that's my biggest critique has been of stuff like all of Stonemeier's other stuff like Scythe, Viticulture and all that. What's kind of killed them for me is that it hasn't got that element of random. It's all very predetermined. It's all very sort of, there's not much random to that. You're doing what you're doing and there isn't a whole lot of chaos in there. What I enjoyed about Tapestry is what a lot of people don't like it for, is actually it injects some chaos to the game. Not all, as I said, not all the races are equal. There's definitely issues there, but some of them seem OP in comparison, some which are actually not very good. And I know there was a subsequent release come out of kind of what the races, what ones you should play and what player groups and stuff. An interesting game, and definitely one that is on my at some point pickup list. It is dropped in price in a few places, so because it was quite hefty when it first came out. So it's one that I think probably the first Stonemaier game I actually purchased and own will be Tapestry. But I've really enjoyed it for this year. Something a bit different. Maybe it wasn't lived up to the hype, but I enjoyed it for all its warts and all. It was an interesting game. Interesting. I keep using interesting. It was good fun. If you've not played it, maybe take a look. Maybe it's not the sum of its parts, but it was something different to a point of what it was doing, and I applaud it for its efforts in regards to that. And as I say, every time I've played it, I've enjoyed it, and it's a good puzzle that I want to return to the table at some point and play some more, because it was the rare game that I left going, ooh, my brain was ticking over after I played it the first time. I really wanted to have another shot at that, and it's one I've enjoyed going back to, where there's just so much variety in there. It's variables, it's good stuff. So Tapestry is number 8 on our list. Number 7 will be Snowdonia, the Deluxe Master Set, because why not? I mean, Snowdonia, a classic game from Tony Boydell. Love the original game. I own a metric ton of expansions for it. Essentially, the idea of the basic game of Snowdonia is you're building up the Snowdon Mountain. It's based on the historical event of them building the train track up. It's got it's a worker placement, but it just does some interesting things, some really cool little mechanisms going on there. There's that automated bag drawer, which is causing the game to sort of chase you up the mountain as well. So you're forced into having to maybe make choices. It's a game that doesn't outstay its welcome because of that. It can whip along at a fair rate of knots, and it's just a really, in the base game alone, is a really enjoyable, lovely little worker placement game with that theme. But then there's the expansions, and Tony loves an expansion, and there's been multiple ones over the years since Snowdonia came out in 2012, I think it was, and they've added all sorts of things, how the game plays, how it just alters its whole thing. And so we got the Vasta set this year, which combined pretty much everything so far that was available for Snowdonia. Literally tons of content that you could essentially have that one box and play that probably for the next 6 months and probably not exhaust everything what's in there. So yeah, Snowdonia, absolutely fantastic, and a fine, superb edition of it. Just tons of content, just huge value in that box. Well worth hunting down in some capacity, even if you get the old original version of it. Snowdonia is a cracking game. To have it in this gorgeous edition, then, well, why would you not want that? So yeah, Snowdonia Deluxe at number 7 on our list. Number 6 is going to be Jaws. Dun, 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 dun. Fantastic. I love Jaws. The Jaws movie is probably one of my most favourite movies, if not my most favourite movie. Love Jaws. Fantastic movie. For some time, I was developing and working on the idea of a Jaws board game. And then Ravensburger bring out Jaws board game, which is pretty much a lot of the ideas that I had, how it would work. So, junked that. There's no point doing it now. It's really cracking little design, really simple game to a certain extent. 2 sort of versions of play. You start off, the first game is you as one of the 3 characters, Hooper, Quint, and the Chief, trying to, on the island, Amity Island, and the shark circling, yumming up swimmers, and you're trying to find it and tag it with barrels to stop it doing that. Once that first part of the game is resolved, board flips, and then you're on the boat fighting against the shark. Essentially, totally different style of game. It captures the idea of the game. It's the game just absolutely nails a movie license. It's really well done. You've got the whole initial sort of first act of the movie, of the island and the shark becoming a menace and trying to deal with it. It's got some lovely little nods and winks to the movie, little bits and pieces there. It's, production design is really good for the value. It's a very £20 game, if even probably cheaper than that in some places. I've seen it for like 20 odd. Yeah, all the components aren't fantastic quality, but I mean, you're getting like a cheap game, and it's a really solid little game. If you love Jaws, this nails it totally, the movie Jaws for me, and it's really great. You've got that initial start arc and the second half of the boat getting chewed up and demolished and sinking into the water. Fantastic. I love Jaws. Thank you, Ravensburger, for Jaws, the board game. It's top drawer. Fantastic. Really enjoyed it. Played it a good few times this year. And as a Jaws fan, I mean, brilliant. So yeah, well worth hunting down. Absolute cracking game design and game. Fantastic. Number 5 is going to be Detective City of Angels from Van Ryder Games. Big Kickstarter game from last year, came out this year. Big sprawling board. Essentially, LA Confidential, or LA Noir even, the board game. You're playing slightly dubious police in the 1950s, I think it is, LA, solving crimes. It is a kind of a legacy style game in that it's a one play and done for each of the cases, but they're all interlinked. And just gorgeous looking, fantastic art by Vincent Dutrain. I'm sorry, Vincent, every time. But anyway, Vincent's fantastic art in there. It's gorgeous looking art. Love his art style. It's all just smothered all over the game. Can be played as a solo game if you want to do, but works most best as essentially one against many. One character plays the chisel. It's essentially playing the part of the bad guys and the narrative in the story. And what they're doing is throwing curveballs at the other detectives as they're trying to question suspects or hunt down the case and find it. And I was surprised, even from like the second or third case in, how big a depth of you can get run off the beaten track with a good chisel, someone doing a relatively good job of feeding you duff information. I played one game where I was totally convinced of different characters were interlinked into a crime and what had happened, and it was this. And actual fact, it was none of that. I was miles off. So really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed it just for the aesthetics of it. It's a really good style of game. Really looks beautiful. Be aware, as I said, it is a one and done game. So you're not going to be able to be repeatedly playing those cases because they're kind of one and done. But just the whole package and how it looks on the table and what it does and the gameplay, love that. Not finished all of it yet. Need to sit back down and play it. And there was an expansion came out on Kickstarter last year, which I didn't pick up at the time because I was like, oh, I don't know. But that first initial game, brilliant. And I'm sure we're probably going to see more coming out for it at some point down the road. So that was City of Angels, I think. It's up there somewhere. Yes, Detective, City of Angels, Vampire Games. Brilliant stuff. Well worth a look if you're that way to find. If not, there was Detective from Portal, which is a close run thing. Very close run thing. Enjoyed that, but Detective, I think, for its aesthetics and everything else, what it did, was one I've been waiting on longer to get here. But kudos to Portal Games Detective, Modern Crime, and LA Crimes game as well, because they were pretty cool. Right, number 4 is going to be Lifeform from All or Nothing Productions. Lifeform is essentially, we reviewed it earlier in the year, or last year now in fact. Lifeform is Alien, the board game from designer Mark Chaplin. It is just narratively, it is telling that story of a beleaguered crew being basically slaughtered by an unkillable monstrous alien organism on your ship. I love its little narrative tweaks and how it tells that story and how it can, like, probably it makes me feel most about the sort of early 80s game design and where those games were more telling a story. And it is telling the same story every time, but you've got just these little deviations in the narrative that can go off, stuff, just enough variables of how badly shit can go wrong with robots malfunctioning and crew trying to save their own ass. It's if you're a fan of Alien, then it nails that feel of game of you being hunted and stalked by a murderous alien organism on board your spaceship. Really good fun, really great, really solid design, beautiful aesthetics on the board. The board looks gorgeous. Rulebook was an abomination, we won't mention that. But Universal Head have subsequently brought out a reference sheet. And a couple of expansions, a solo expansion for it, which changed the style up of the game entirely. But yeah, if you're looking for that style of you against the alien organism, then that really is it. It's Alien the board game, and was very well done. Really enjoyed it. So that was Lifeform. Took ages to get here. Been waiting for that for years to arrive. It's here. It got published this year. There was an expansion allegedly due, possibly next year. We might get one. Maybe this year now. Who knows? But yeah, Lifeform from Mark Chaplin and All or Nothing Productions. Excellent stuff. Number 3 is going to be Res Arcana, which is one that I've played an awful lot. It's a relatively simple sort of engine building type game, but I like the limitations that are set upon you. You only have a 8-card deck at the start of the game. That's all you're going to get. There is places of power and monuments you can buy throughout the game to kind of give you more, but you're essentially building this engine from these cards that you can draft in the later version. The initial version, you're just going to get a set of cards, but we now played it enough that you draft. So you've got this 8-card deck, and essentially it's trying to make an engine out the best you can of that, and it's setting you that limitation on there. There is a larger deck of cards, so you're going to get a variable mix every time. And it's one played quite a few times, and I still haven't really came at it from like a game-winning strategy. Everyone's played it with one different ways, and even when you've sat there with a deck of cards in front of you, you're like, I don't know if I can actually win or two, and I've sometimes managed to steer it around. So you're playing essentially dueling wizards. That's essentially what it is, and you can bring creatures into the thing, or you're doing alchemy or stuff, and you're converting components or stuff into various different materials to pay off other cards. That's it. Think a bit Magic the Gathering with a bit of Terraforming Mars, I suppose, or engine builders generally. But yeah, and as I say, there's a real cutthroat, sort of really refined game. There's not that huge spawning deck of cards. You're not buying any more cards, so you're working with what you've got, and it's just going through that and learning and how to do it. It's really good sort of mental gymnastics involved in it. Really enjoyed it. It's one of the sleeper hits sort of thing to point. I know it was on Kickstarter, which I missed out on the Kickstarter and picked up from retail. But yeah, it's been relatively inexpensive to pick up. And it's one I keep coming back to. Really good. And there's just been released as an expansion for it, which I've got, but I've not actually played with yet. But yeah, Rezakana for Sandcastle Games, and Tom Lehman, I believe, the designer of Race for the Galaxy. But yes, fantastic stuff, really good, really enjoyable, definitely up there, and that's now number 3 on our top 10 of this year. So number 2 is going to be Nemesis. Late to the party, Nemesis, because I didn't get it up in Kickstarter, but it's one that has seen an awful lot of play, and it was... Since I've had it, I've played it an awful lot. Whilst I love Lifeform, I think Nemesis, just for a bit quicker to get to the table, a bit easier to teach, and it's been well received by everyone. So Nemesis, essentially from Waking Realms, is, again, same sort of idea. Us as a crew on a ship, but think this is more aliens. You're being assailed by a bunch of ugly buglies, and you've got guns, and this time you can at least fight back against them. It's a semi-co-op. And I love the stories this game tells, and it is kind of a storytelling, very narrative focused. You all start off playing nicely. You've got some basic requirements that everyone needs to make sure is right, that the ship is going to get to where it's going, that the engines are working, that the navigation point is heading towards Earth. And then it's about 2/3 of the way through the game, the gloves come off, everyone just suddenly starts looking after their own skin, and invariably shit hits the fan and everyone dies in quick succession. It's righteous fun. It looks gorgeous. There is some very good production design and large miniatures, the graphic design on the board, but most importantly, that rulebook's fantastic. It's really got a simple set of rules, and there's a reference in there which is so easy to look up and do, but once you've played it about 2 times, second time through or whatever, you've pretty much nailed it. It's not a very rules heavy game. Very enjoyable, really good fun, cracking stuff. It was one I regret not backing on Kickstarter because I haven't got all the extras that were available for it. But yeah, if you can hunt it down, pick up Nemesis. It's that base set is perfectly fine. There's a lot of play in that game. We've played it 8, 9, 10 times at least, and had a highly enjoyable and variable experience every time we played it. Yeah, really good. If you're looking for a miniature-based board game of you being attacked by slavering beasties, then that does it. Tells a great story, great fun, real nail-biting entertainment, and a hoot besides. So number 1 on the list, what will it be? Well, it's going to be Dune for Gale Force 9. It's the reprint of the 80s classic Dune. Now, this is a game I played an awful lot in my younger years. Loved Dune. Really good game by the designers of Cosmic Encounter. I love the books Dune, and I even like the David Lynch movie of Dune, which is kind of an artistically beautiful sort of movie. It's not bad actually, a version of it, but off the beaten track. But yeah, Dune. If you don't know what Dune is, obviously it's the planet Arrakis, or Dune is a planet that produces spice, the only planet in the galaxy. And it's essentially the game of forces of these different families fighting over control of that land, and the spice on it. And it's cracking. It's a vicious game, tactical game. It's a shame that it's been so long out of print. And Gale Force 9 have done a pretty good job of a relatively inexpensive version of it. I mean, the reprints, the old versions of this were spending hundreds of pounds to hunt down the original Dune. Graphically, aesthetically, it looks gorgeous. There's some weirdities with the board and small spaces. And some other issues, but actually that core game is there, and it's not that complex. There is the advanced rules in there you can add. Dune was always a bit of a hodgepodge of where you play it. No, Dune was reprinted a few years ago, about 5 years ago or so, by FFG as Rex, which, whilst I played and enjoyed Rex, I always wanted Dune. Because I like the theming of Dune, I like what it's doing, and that was my first encounter with that. Rex is fine, but it never quite sat with me. I don't know why. It didn't feel smooth, and it was missing that theme. Well, so finally, we've got Dune back. If you've never played it, it's a cracking, vicious game. As I say, the idea is you're essentially these warring families on the planet trying to get spice. It's played over 10 rounds, and there's lots of negotiation and bribing, and the best thing is all the families, a bit like the Aliens and Cosmic Encounter, all the families essentially have one rule, or maybe more, that break a part of the game in their favour. So it's using that to your best advantage, and it just nails it. Thematically, the rules, the Harkonnens, traitorous, evil, vicious bad guys, can do nasty things. The Atreides and their sort of heroic sort of ways of what they can do. The Fremen with their abilities with the sandworm. Just a great game. It's a game I've long wanted back ever since it was lost to time and space. And Air Force 9, I think, have done a cracking job of reprinting what is a classic. It's not festooned with plastic and it's not festooned with bling, but actually for something that means most people could afford and get to the table and play, it's a cracker, and it's a really good game. Best played at probably a full player count of 6. They've already announced an expansion with 2 new races. Whether I'd play an 8-player game of it, I don't know. But a 6-player game of Dune is a stonker. That's an all-evening job of betrayal and intrigue and viciousness, but it plays very well. We've played a good few games of 4-player game of it, and that's also been a huge amount of fun. Considering games like we've got the Game of Thrones board game, Twilight Imperium and other stuff have come out since, this is the granddaddy of that sort of 4X-y sort of feel of your game. It's not quite a 4X, but that style of game, and it's very compressed into this sort of almost a knife fight in an elevator style. Yeah, I mean, Dune just does a lot of things well. Mechanically, it's tight. It's a part war game, it's part negotiation game. There's traitorous elements and there's alliances in there. I love that it's the economy of the mechanisms. Everything is, really tight. You go for upkeep phase, you go for income phase, you've got negotiation phase, there's blind bidding in there. The actual strategy of the game is tight, like a nun's snatch tight. You only get one move during this game. I mean, there's a big map, but essentially you're only making one move with one unit around. So you have to think long and hard what that move's going to be. So all of that combines together, as I say, into this. Essentially, it's a war game, but it's not really a war game. It's all about the economies of what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to make that move. Are you in an alliance? It's making the use of that alliance. Are you going to break that alliance if it comes up to the option to do that? All of that stuff kind of combines into this really tightly knit game. Love it. Now, there is a bunch of rules. Dune has always been a game that's kind of been not house ruled, but there was a lot of different ways of playing it. There's a real basic version of playing it, which comes with the rules in the GF9 game. They've also included all the advanced rules, which you can, to be fair to you, pretty much piecemeal put it in or not as you want. Have a read of them, have a look. Play the base game, certainly, good few times with the basic rules, and it plays perfectly fine with that. But the advanced rules and that flavourful Dune feel and kind of all the stuff, it kind of adds a lot more to it, to the game. The advanced races just do a little bit more. Yes, GF9 could have done a better job of maybe integrating all that and maybe smoothing it, but hey, they've given us Dune, and Dune was perfectly fine in the 80s. Things have moved on, but feel free to house rule, really, to a certain extent, what you do or don't add into the game. The advanced combat, are you going to use it? I don't know. Have a look at it. It's been said that it's more complex than it is. It isn't that complex. It's really not. Once you understand the basic rules and the basic way it runs through, there's not a lot of complexity there in comparison to some games like TI4 and some other stuff, which is quite complex games. So if you're handling those games, you're going to handle this. But play the most simple version of it first. See you crack on. Add in the advanced stuff, what you want to pick and choose of that. It's all pretty good, and it doesn't take a massive amount of brain power to handle it. You'll be fine. There we go. Dune, my number one of 2010. 2010? God Christ, my number one of 2019. Because it's back. It's a game I've always loved. As I say, I enjoyed Rex, but Rex just whilst it was fun, was kind of a bit bloated with FFG. I don't know what they did with it, but it felt bloated. Didn't like the map, even though potentially it's probably the same. Just didn't like a lot of stuff. Enjoyed it. Didn't love it. June's back. It's got the theme in there. It all just works. It's so well thematically linked together. If you've read the books or seen the movies or both, you should do both. And this coming year, or 2020, we're in now, so confusing. There is new June movies coming, so potentially we'll see more June games. I suspect at some point down the road we'll actually see probably a proper war game for June, I suspect. We'll see. But yeah, if you like June, if you've read the books, if you've anything about that, if you've played Cosmic Encounter, enjoy it. All of that stuff should combine together to make you go, I need to have this game in my life. And as I've said already, it's such a relatively inexpensive game to pick up with all these big box stuff. You know, you can pick up this classic in its format for 30 quid. It's a no-brainer. So yeah, there you go. That is why it's on my list. That's why it's my number one. It's all to do with nostalgia and something I love. And actually, having got it back to the head one, playing it again, it's still a solid bloody game, and it's really good fun. And it does a lot of stuff that actually a lot of games don't dare to do at the moment. Potentially, there is player elimination possibilities. It can play for 6 hours, or it may play for 2. It may play for 1. It's all over the place, and I love it. Love some chaos and carnage in my world, and I love the theming in the world of June, so I'm happy all over, all day long. So there you go. Thank you very much. There is our top 10 of 2019. That was exciting, wasn't it? As I said before, this is games that I've seen and played and played more than once. There's a lot of games came out this year, some of which I've never even seen or played or had a go at. Or I may have played them and they've made such an impact on me, I've even forgot to add them to this. So who knows? But anyway, feel free to debate. They are my top 10. There is many like them, but they are mine and mine alone. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you again for being a watcher, a lurker of this year. We are now into 2020. What wonders will bring. Don't forget to like us, to share us maybe, and subscribe. There we go. Thank you for all our new additions, all our new subscribers. Hello, all of you new people. It's lovely here. But yes, thank you for that. And don't forget, we do run a Patreon. Heaven forbid that we should break into double figures on the Patreons. You never know. But there we go. We're here. We're still staying around. We're lingering like a fart in an elevator, and we'll be here forevermore, I have no doubt, or until at least I keel over. So there we go. Thank you very much for joining me on this list. It was very exciting. Lots of stuff planned. Maybe even come to pass. Who knows? There was a video out the other day of some of my proclamations of what we're doing the year. Don't forget to hang around. Tune in soon. There will be my top 20 of the last decade games. I've got it down to 20 games, just. I'm going to be doing a video that maybe a 2-parter. Who knows? We'll see how long it takes to whack it out and do it. So that's coming, and some other stuff. More reviews, more stuff. We're going to be reviewing some of the new Alicat game stuff. Yes, just came in. Tinderbox and Kitten. We'll be doing that very soon. And all one manner of stuff. Anyway, that's for another time. Thank you for tuning in. See you soon. Have a lovely weekend if it's the weekend for you. If not, enjoy whatever you're doing at the moment. And on that bombshell, we're signing out. Good night, goodbye, and Happy New Year. Bye.